I also love, the book is so good. My favorite thing is that you interviewed Situation Room staff. I've always said that it's White House staff whose names you'll never know that are like the writers of history. They'll tell us so many details.
You know, that was my favorite part about doing the book. I interviewed about 100 duty officers from the White House. And these are people that come, they're relatively young, people who come from all over the government, the CIA, the DIA, Defense Department, military. And, you know, some people like to call those people the deep state.
Deep state.
Well, the big thing I learned doing this book is that the deep state is packed with patriots. People who go to work every single day on the front lines of the most intense crises the country faces and do it to serve their country and to serve the presidency, not the president. They don't care about political parties. They're there to serve the presidency and the institution.
And they're doing it anonymously.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
As one of them told me, Mike Seeley said, you know, we serve in silence.
Well, you and I share a common past, having worked in the White House for very different administrations, and you and I both spent probably more time than we can even recall in the Situation Room. And to remind folks, it's actually multiple rooms, as you mentioned.
Now.
All right, guys, so those illegal immigrant lifeguards that Eric Adams wants to hire may actually come in handy, because I may need one because of all of the liberal tears that I've been drowning in lately, right? And I have more liberal tears for you guys. Courtesy of the mainstream liberal media, who are upset because their years worth of propaganda, the years worth of Trump derangement has not worked, okay? And because it looks like the trials that people actually care about are not going to happen, they went back to square one, which is January 6th, and that Trump is a threat to democracy talking point, okay? And they had cackling hands on the View, who are pawns of the Democrat establishment. They are rolling out people like George Stephanopoulos to talk about Trump, to fearmonger about Trump. As you guys saw at the beginning of this video, George Stephanopoulos confirmed that the so-called deep state is not just a right-wing conspiracy. It is a real thing. In fact, George Stephanopoulos says that the deep state is full of patriots, right? The unelected bureaucrats that are destroying this country serve in silence. And what really boggles my mind about that segment is not what George Stephanopoulos said, because he essentially admitted what we all know to be true. It's the fact that you have the so-called conservative Alyssa Farah Griffin, who once again is acting like an NPC, just nodding her head. Yeah, the deep state, they're patriots, right? And it's like, bruh, come on, okay? Come on. This lady frustrates me so much, okay? I just can't stand the fact that she pretends not to be a Democrat Party liberal activist. That's what she is, okay? I'm just keeping it 100. She really frustrates me. But anyways, you know why these people fearmonger about Project 2025 so much? Because that is a conservative plan to dismantle the deep state and to help Trump be as effective as possible his first 100 days in office, okay? So, again, you know, the fact that these people think that the deep state are patriots, right? It tells you everything you need to know why they're so afraid of what Trump may or may not do, okay? And they're so afraid that, again, they're peddling these talking points, trying to make it seem like Trump is somehow some huge threat. Again, George Stephanopoulos peddling his book where he is essentially trying to claim that Mike Pence actually was in danger on January 6th and that he could have been assassinated by individuals who were unarmed and had absolutely zero chance of actually really overtaking the Capitol. But that's not what George Stephanopoulos wants you to think.
The weight of history when you're in that room, and the history echoes through the room.
January 6th was one of the most harrowing days in our country's history, so I asked George about the role the Situation Room played on that day. What was going on in the Situation Room that day as rioters were storming Capitol?
Harrowing. It was a harrowing day inside the Situation Room. I talked to a duty officer named Mike Stiegler, who it had been his dream to work in the White House, and he was on duty on January 6th, getting real-time reports from the Vice President's Secret Service detail about how much danger the Vice President was in. He and his colleagues started to implement the continuity of government operations. People may not know what that is. Those are the executive order first implemented by Dwight Eisenhower to figure out how the government could survive a nuclear attack and putting everything in place, so the line of succession, safe spaces for people to go to. They started to implement those procedures. It had only been done once before on 9/11. They were implementing those on January 6th, dealing with the crisis inspired by the President of the United States.
Yeah, so again, there you have it, right? The mainstream liberal media, they're back to square one. January 6th, Mike Pence was in danger. When the reality is, everybody knows that these politicians were not in any real danger, okay? There was zero chance of any of those politicians actually really getting hurt that day or anything happening to them. But again, that's not what the mainstream liberal media wants you to believe, okay? Because unfortunately, this does work on some people in this country. Like, for example, Trump deranged actor Robert De Niro, that the Cackling Hens also had on the show, who went on this Trump deranged rant that was profanity laced as well too, where he basically tries to justify him wanting to punch the president in the face, which in my opinion is a threat of violence towards the former president. And the Cackling Hens just go right along with it, right? This is what they do on the show on a daily basis, right? Just fearmonger about Trump and cry over this idea that he's going to be president of the United States again.
Well, I think I don't understand why people are not taking him seriously, because you read about it historically in other countries that they didn't take the people seriously. I think Hitler, Mussolini, but they're fools and clowns. Well, there will be, and I hear it. There's some people. I mean, who does not think that this guy is going to do exactly what he says he's going to do?
Right.
He's done it already.
Right.
And then what? We're going to sit around and say, what? We told you so? Or whoever, I told you so? It's going to happen. If he gets elected, it's going to change this country for everybody. And they might think that it's going to make their life better, or they just want to, excuse my French, literally. Those people who support him with anger and hate, because that's what he's about, they're going to see. I mean, I used to see these things. I didn't understand how he and Rosie O'Donnell used to get it. I said didn't really care. Yeah. I see what a hateful, mean-spirited, awful thing he is.
He was vicious to her.
He's vicious. And why will he not do that in this country? He's already done it. Yeah. Why would he not do? When I say I want to punch him in the face, it's because what he said to a person, a bystander or somebody in one of his rallies, he wants to punch him in the face. You don't talk that way to people. What kind of person does that?
Makes fun of the physically challenged. He makes fun of people who have physical challenges.
He's done that too. He's done everything.
The military. He says that people who go to war are losers. Wake up.
He's done everything. What more do you need? It's almost like he wants to do the worst that he could possibly do to show this country. His slogan.
And the other thing is, if he becomes president again, he's never listen, he's not going to not stop being president. You understand this? Yeah. His idea is to stay in until he drops dead.
That's it. He's not even conceding it now. So imagine if he actually did win the election.
Wow, I love it. I can't get enough of the liberal tears, man. I really can't. Okay, and you know, it's funny to me because all of these rants, all these things that they're doing, it really just helps Trump in the end. And these individuals don't seem to be smart enough to figure out that these exaggerations, the hyperbole, the constant fear-mongering, it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? It's like, well, you guys have been saying this for the last 8 years. Ever since Trump came down that escalator at Trump Tower, announcing that, hey, I'm going to run for president, you guys have said, well, it's going to be the end of the world. Okay, Trump's going to be a dictator. He's never going to leave office. Everything is going to be so bad. But what the American people know is that during the Trump presidency, none of these things that these people said would happen actually happened. And it's funny because this election season is unique in the sense that the American people have two choices. Well, technically they have more than two choices, which hurts Biden, right, overall. But they have two choices, right? They have a guy where they know what they got, okay, under Trump, And then they have the current guy, what they know what they're getting right now. Everything has been so bad under the current guy. And they know, okay, well, what we got under the last guy was not nearly as bad as what the mainstream liberal media told us that it would be. It just wasn't. So when you come out here and you start saying, well, everything's going to be terrible under Trump, like the world's going to end, he's never going to leave office, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? This guy's just so bad. You don't understand. You just have to see it to believe it. You got to experience it for yourself. And it's like, well, we have experienced it, right? We experienced 4 years of Trump and none of these things happened. And this is why Trump is winning. This is why he's winning. Because people can now see that, hey, wait. All this stuff that the mainstream liberal media is saying, it's just fear-mongering. It's just exaggeration. That's all it is. Because we saw what happened under his presidency, and it wasn't that bad. In fact, it was great. That's what a lot of people are realizing. Compared to Biden, who's been so terrible that I think the best thing for Trump's legacy is the Biden administration. Because a lot of people did not appreciate Trump. They did not appreciate the Trump economy. They did not appreciate the stability and the peace that was present under the Trump administration until he left office. That's the sad part about all this stuff, right? It took an absolute disaster. It took the United States being involved in two major world wars that are going on, two conflicts overseas, right? Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Hamas / Iran. You could throw them in there as well too. Maybe, just maybe, China invades Taiwan. It took a wide open border, okay, out of control crime, out of control inflation, terrible economy. All these things for people to realize, hey, you know, that guy Trump was not that bad, right? All the things that the mainstream liberal media was telling us about how this dude is going to be so bad and so terrible, you know, it seems like they were wrong. And these people are doing the exact same thing now, and then they wonder why Trump is winning. They can't figure out, well, why is Trump winning? Even though we're telling them everything is going to be so bad. It's because everybody knows that you're full of shit. Everybody knows it. And it's just so funny to me because these individuals can't figure it out. They're literally begging people. They're begging people to wake up and realize that, hey, this guy is going to be terrible. These people have not articulated what mechanism would Trump use to actually stay in office forever, right? Like, how would that actually work? Because he's damn sure not going to have enough support in Congress in order to have some type of constitutional amendment in order to make it so he can stay in office forever. That's not going to happen. So he's not going to do it like that. The dude is going to be in his 80s. I don't think he wants to be president of the United States forever. Okay, I would imagine that he'll be old enough that he'll be like, hey, you know what? I think that I'm too old for this job now, right? I'm going to move on. I'm going to enjoy my, last, few years or whatever, on the golf course, with my wife, with my kids, okay? Enjoying life, okay? Not doing this stressful job. Something that Joe Biden should highly consider, right? He should highly consider stepping down. In fact, that's probably the Democrats' best chance of making some type of comeback is for Joe Biden to step down. By the way, I think that we're going to see more speculation about maybe Joe Biden might call it quits. Who knows? I'm not saying it's likely to happen. I just saying don't be surprised if you start to hear that conversation come up again. But under what mechanism would that happen? Under what mechanism will we get a January 6th part 2? Because the reason why January 6th happened is because people were upset about the outcome of the election. Even if Trump loses in November, which seems to be highly unlikely at this point, but you never know. Again, how would a January 6th part 2 happen? Like, how would that happen? Like, I'm just saying, like, again, somebody try to explain to me what is the real threat of violence and where? Because if January 6th was so bad because of the fact that it took place at the Capitol, what is the chances of that happening again? There's no chance. Trump wouldn't be in office, so he would not have any government power to do anything. So what is the real threat? Because if he wins, it's not like he can run for re-election again. So what is he going to do? What election is there to be upset about if he wins, right? Like, I don't understand. None of this really makes sense, but this is what they're saying. But what we really should be talking about, and I'm so serious about this, okay? If the mainstream liberal media was honest, what they really should be discussing is, well, what happens if Trump wins and the left gets upset? Because we've seen the political violence that happens in this country when the left gets upset. It happened when Trump won in 2016, right, against Hillary. These people were committing acts of violence. And these people, again, they're saying the same thing. Oh, my God, Trump, terrible. Trump, the worst thing ever, right? So all of this fear-mongering leads me to believe that the real threat of violence you need to worry about are these individuals losing their minds if Trump wins. That is the real threat of January 6th Part 2, because we know the Democrats are not going to accept the outcome. They're going to be out here screaming, Russia, 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 Putin, right? This is what they're going to be doing. They're not going to say it was legitimate. And then these people are going to go out in the streets and they're going to protest about it. They're going to commit acts of violence. And that's what we really should be worried about. I'm more worried about what happens in regards to violence if Trump wins than I am if Trump loses, to be quite honest with you, because we've already seen that happen. Okay, we already see how the left reacts when they don't get their way. We've already seen the Democrats deny elections, but yet, again, they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to talk about that. They just want to point the finger at Trump. And again, it's just so funny that none of this stuff is working. Trump's poll numbers are getting better and better and better. I mean, it's at the point now where, I mean, you know, it's probably going to be a landslide victory if the election was held today. And these people wonder why what they're saying is just not having an effect. It's because you've abused and spammed this, oh, Trump a threat card so much that people, they don't even listen anymore. People are just laughing at you. And that's the funny part about this. At this point, it's just entertainment for me. And I'm just glad that the American people are realizing that all of this stuff, all this propaganda from the media is just that. It's just propaganda. It's an act. It's not even like they're coming at it from an objective perspective, which could add more to their credibility. They're just fear-mongering about one guy when they really should be fear-mongering about the guy that's currently in office and the far leftists that have been out of control for the past 8 years. So again, that's the hilarious part. And it seems as if we're probably in for another, at least, 4 years of this, right? Of these deranged meltdowns and rants that are not grounded in any type of reality or facts or anything like that. It's just hilarious to me. You know, you would think these individuals would get tired of this, but they never do. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.